Brett Yormark and the Big 12 have finally released the schedule for all of the Big 12 teams, and I'm really excited about it. But we are here to talk about specifically the OU football schedule, and we're going to break it down and talk about my way too early predictions for the schedule. But before we do it, please go ahead, hit that like and the subscribe button. Let me know what you all are thinking down in the comments below. What game are you most excited about on this schedule for the Oklahoma Sooners? So the Big 12 released the schedule today, and we're just going to briefly run through the teams that Oklahoma will be playing, and then we'll dive into some predictions here. So Oklahoma will be playing the away games of Cincinnati, Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma State, and BYU. They will be playing home games of Iowa State, UCF, West Virginia, and TCU, which is on a Friday, which that one's going to be a little interesting there. A little Black Friday shopping, go to Norman, watch the game. But I think this is an interesting schedule because it's very favorable for Oklahoma. You're not seeing teams like Texas Tech, Kansas State, Baylor, teams that historically cause Oklahoma problems. And it was also interesting to me because when you look at Texas's schedule too, both Texas and Oklahoma were missing at least one of the new teams that were joining the Big 12. I think Texas is missing two of them, only playing Cincinnati and Houston, or BYU and Houston. But when it comes to Oklahoma, like I said, very favorable schedule. You're starting off with three pretty easy games out of conference. Two home games with Arkansas State and SMU. I think all of us would expect Oklahoma to win both of those games. But then they go up to Tulsa, where it's an away game, but it's pretty much a home game because, let's be honest, all of us Norman fans, we project that we're going to travel out there and make it a home game for OU. So you would expect that by going in the conference play, OU would be 3-0. Now, the question is, will Oklahoma look different going 3-0 into conference play than they did last year? Remember, last year going to be 3-0, they had only given up 30 points by the time they'd played Kansas State. But multiple times during those three games did we see Oklahoma's offense stall out. So I think that's going to be potentially something that we're going to be watching going into conference play this year. But you're going to be immediately hitting the road again, leaving the state, going to Cincinnati, playing the Bearcats. Now, Cincinnati, they have a great stadium. It's a great college game day atmosphere. But here's the deal. They're just now turning over a new coach. They've lost some talent on that team. I would not expect that to be a really hard game for Oklahoma. I expect the Sooners to be advancing to 4-0 by that point. You look at Iowa State at home, there is some questions about what is this Iowa State team in Hunter Decker's going to be in year two. But I don't think it's something that Oklahoma should be necessarily too opposed of. I think they should be able to handle Iowa State. Going into Texas, you are 4-0. Now, the Texas game, like I said last year, it's a toss-up. And I think Texas is going to be really good this year. And since Texas won the game last year, I'm going to give them the favorable option here, saying that Oklahoma loses it. But like I said, it's a toss-up. Oklahoma could win it. It's really hard to call that game specifically. So let's just say by that time, Oklahoma is 5-1. You're going into a bye week. And I like it here after Texas because you're going to have to head into a pretty, I think, the hardest part of your schedule, where you play UCF at home. You should win that game, but it's going to be a tough one because we know that UCF offense can be high-powered and explosive. But you should be able to win it, so you should be 6-1 at that point. You go to Kansas. Kansas does now have an 85-man roster for the first time in a while. 85 scholarship players. You should still be able to win that game, but again, with what they have returning and Lance Leipold having that program going in the right direction, it should be pretty tough. I think Oklahoma State this year is a blowout in Stillwater. I think you're going to see a bunch of OU fans flock up there. I don't think OU should have any problem. So by that point, you should be 8-1 going back to Norman to play West Virginia. So you play West Virginia, should be another easy win. By that point, OU could be 10-1. Now, here's the question. Does OU lose any of their final two games? Because OU's never beaten BYU, and they have to go on the road to Provo. Now, in my humble, honest opinion, I don't think OU should struggle with BYU this year. If it was like any other year, I think maybe you would question it. But here's the deal. BYU's got to go out there. They got to play better competition this year. They've got to play what I would consider a gauntlet schedule for them this year. They've got to play Arkansas, Kansas, Cincinnati, TCU, Texas Tech, Texas, West Virginia, Iowa State, Oklahoma, and Oklahoma State. So they've got a pretty hard schedule. You would think, but by the end of the season, they would probably be a pretty worn down. I want to say OU is going to win that game. And so that puts Oklahoma now at 10-1, 10-1, playing TCU at home on a Friday night, Black Friday special. This one, I just don't know what TCU is going to be, because Chandler Morris, the original starting quarterback at TCU last year, who got hurt, he's going to be returning. Additionally, they have weapons like Darius Davis. They do have other running backs in that room. I think the TCU defense will be better next season. I think this could be a tough one for Oklahoma. I want to say they win it. Here's the deal. I'm looking at it and saying 11-1. Ideally, though, Oklahoma fans need to go into this season with the expectations of 8 wins. Because here's the deal. I think 8 wins, it's 100% an improvement over last season, and you know the team's going in the right direction. If the team wins 10 or 11 games next season, don't be shocked, but also don't go in there expecting 10 or 11 wins. I'm just looking at the schedule and telling you what I see. I definitely don't expect Oklahoma to go 11-1 next year. I do expect there to be some hiccups in here and to lose to somebody, but just way too early looking at the schedule. I just don't know exactly who they lose to. I don't think they lose a game at home next season. So I think it's got to be a game on the road. And the most likely of those games on the road that we lose, I think, would be BYU. So I think the most likely upside would be 10-2. I think the ceiling for Oklahoma is 11 wins next season. I think the floor should be 8. No. The floor should be 7, but your expectations should be set at 8. So I love what Oklahoma has going forward. Like I said, an extremely favorable schedule this year, especially not having to play Georgia out of conference. If we would have had to play Georgia out of conference this year, there's no doubt in my mind, you probably would have got smacked around, because that Georgia defense, they've got a lot returning there, and they're going to be pretty good. So go ahead, everybody, jump down in the comments below. Let me know what y'all's thoughts are around just the Big 12 schedule in general, but specifically for you Sooners fans that are watching this, what game are you most excited to either see here in Norman or go out there and travel to? Additionally, what do you think Oklahoma's record could potentially be? Give me your way too early predictions.